guys, Insomnia from Unreal Tech, a division of Blender Tech, and welcome to Populating, the dynamic linked inventory and crafting system. We now have all the visual stuff done, that is, the inventory and crafting screens are populated as they should and show the information that we set up in the child blueprints and structures. So I'm going quicker through things this late in the series because I figure by now you guys have a better idea of how things are built and how this system is built. So anyways, today we're going to go and see how much of the crafting system logic we can get finished now that we have all the GUI, the visual stuff done. So with any luck, this or the next video should cover the prototype and we can improve from there. So with that said, open your project. We're working 4.8. Remember our motto, create your way, and let's get to it. So a quick review as always. We have it so that, as always, we can pick up items which get added to our inventory. They get their buttons that show up. And then we have our crafting screen, which populates our recipes unlocked and locked. And when we select one, it shows us the name preview, the name, the details. We have our craft and cancel button, and then we just need to populate required and have items, and then create the logic to compare those and then remove them from the inventory if we have enough. So let's get to it. So let's open up widget craft main. That one we will most definitely need. Well, let's start there. So we need to get the required and the have scroll boxes to populate. Now remember, we made them variables, so scroll box required items and scroll box have items set to fill. Oh, I didn't even set that one to a variable. Make sure, yeah, scroll box have and required items are variables. And so let's go into the graph. And if I remember correctly, in the event graph, we were going through the event construct sequence of events, and we got to populate recipe lists, which I think has to come after what we're gonna do next. But either way, we did that. And so yeah, we were just going down the line of things that needed to be done. So with that said, let's move on to the next part, which will be oh, what, I can't even remember now. We have to populate the have items from the inventory, and this is kind of cheap and whatever you want to call it, because it's basically just a copy of the inventory almost. But what we're gonna want is a macro. I like using macros for this just because otherwise it's just a useless void function using up stuff it probably doesn't need to in terms of performance. So let's make a new macro. We're gonna call that populate have items from inv. We need an input and an output, both executions. And remember the trick, the first one we can type execute and it'll blank it out, and the second one we can type then and it'll blank it out. So we're gonna need quite a bit of space in this one, and this will be a for loop, so we can bring our output down here. So I went through 3 versions, getting this as simple as I could, and actually it's not as bad as I was kind of making it out to be. So what we need to do is pull out our first person character as a getter. Off of that, we need to get item stacking. So get structure item stacking first person. So that's all our stacked items basically, and then we can split it. Since it's a small struct, we can just split it, we don't need to break it. And then we want to do a for each loop, so hold down F and click and wire that into the input. And so the first for each loop array goes into items, so items for each loop. And the loop body, what we want to do is create a widget. And the widget we want to create is a widget inventory button. And we could go and we could make a simpler way to do this, but this prevents you from having to make another widget. So I just find it easier this way. Easier and cleaner. And so then what we want to do is drag off the return value, and we want to set amount, set num, right? Item num, items num for button. I believe that was how many we had. So we want to set that integer. And what we want to set it to is the corresponding array index that matches up with the number from the stacking structure plus 1. So, because everything starts at 0, right? So what we need to do is just drag off the number array, the num array, and we want to do an array get, and the index is going to be the array index of the for each loop. So we're getting the number for whatever item we're at right now. And we take that, we go plus 1, get rid of the 1, and integer plus integer, it'll put the 1 in for you. And then we take that return value into the setter. So we're setting the amount. So just same as in our inventory, we're just basically doing it again. We could just grab the data, but this works well and it's pretty efficient, so I don't mind it. Then we need to take the return value again, and we need to set item data, the structure. And this is going to get kind of messy, maybe not, we'll see. So what we want to set that to is the array element. So I'm going to wire it together, then I'm going to double click on each end, because we're in 4.8, to create reroute nodes, and I'm just going to bring those up just to make it cleaner. So we want to set the item data so that we can pull out all the information about the item, so that we can get its name basically. And then after that we add child, and remember, it won't show up unless you turn off context sensitive. We want the panel add child, and of course the content is going to be the return value. So yeah, let's make a reroute node here, and let's do something like that's kind of ugly. Something like that. I don't know. Looks good enough for me. Maybe bring that over 1 and bring that over 1. Make it nice and clean looking. Alright, cool. So, and the target where we want to add the child is to scroll box have inventory. So that's right here. So the items that we have. So that'll be our target. Throw that up there. So cool. So basically what we're doing is for each item in the inventory, create a button with its name and amount, same as inv, and add it to scroll box have items. Alright, and then when that is completed, we just end the macro. So put it to the output. And I'm gonna, where can I put it to keep it nice and clean? We'll throw it there and put a reroute node and stick it up there somewhere. Alrighty, cool. So go back to our event graph. I'm gonna stick that at the end. So we have populate have items from inventory. We can pull that macro in, and we can throw it in there. We can see if it works, so we can compile and save and play. Okay, so my computer crashed, but anyways, it did save, so we can pick up our items or whatever. And then when we go into our crafting menu, we have our items. And they are clickable, but they won't do anything here other than set the item, which won't do anything in this menu. They're a little big, so that's where making another widget for them could possibly benefit you, but you could just make this bigger too, which would fit too, or the text could be smaller for both of them. But anyways, that works. It's quick and easy. So that's our have items. It displays them at least. So now we need our required items. So we'll go back into our widget craft main. We can close just close out everything except for the event graph. So that's good. So populate have items scroll box. So that is the entire event construct. So event construct slash destruct. Alrighty, cool. So now we need to do on clicked button craft. So we've selected a recipe. It shows us have buttons. Now we need to get it to show required items, and then when we craft we need to compare them. And so the required items list we're actually going to do in our recipe button widget. So open that one up. Let's go to the graph and let's create a new function. Yeah, it's just it could be a macro too, I guess, but new function called we'll go create, whoops, caps, create required items list, or populate, or whatever. And after we've created that, we want to go back to our event graph, and remember we made this whole on clicked button recipe. So when we select the recipe, we want to, at the very last thing we want to do is show how many items it requires. So we want to call that function. So just drag it in and set it up. So we can comment that as populate the required items list scroll box. Perfect. Good enough for the girls I go with. So in that function, we are gonna have to do quite a bit of logic. It's quite ugly. I don't like it. I know there's a better way. I just haven't found it yet. So we're just gonna get through it, and maybe you guys have some ideas. So what we need to do first is clear children. Context sensitive off. Panel clear children, the only one. And what we need to do is take the found widget crafting main. So remember, that's the main widget that we found with get all widgets of. And off of that, we want to get a scroll box for required. What is that? Get scroll box required items. So we want to clear that, the very first thing. When we select the recipe, we want to clear it. Otherwise, we'll continually keep adding. Whoops. We'll keep adding items from each recipe over and over and over again. So we need to clear it first. So clear list when a new recipe is selected. Very first thing. And then after that, we need to go into a branch, hold down B and click. And its condition is going to be, we'll take right, if we go to the event graph, we set recipe selected. There's something I'm forgetting in the middle here. Oh yes, okay, so this one is the last one, but in between there we need to create ourselves a variable. So we need to pull in first person character as a getter, and off of that we need to get crafting recipes first person, and then off of that we need to get selected recipes, or get selected recipe first person, and then we need to do a array get of the crafting recipes array, and off of that value we want to promote to a variable. So right click, promote to variable, and we want to set that to something called like current selected recipe, and just wire that in there. And if you wanted to test that, you could, of course, break that and then print the recipe name out. But I'm pretty sure it'll work, so we don't need to do that. So we're just going to comment that as get the now selected recipe and promote it to a var for reuse. Alright, so now we have that variable. So we can go back into our create required items list. And so now we can make our condition. So grab that in as a getter, that variable we just set. We want to break it. And then we want to get each item that you can craft with, and we're gonna need a condition greater than 0. So just drag off greater than sign, integer greater than 0. So that'll be a condition for the first one. And we're gonna need one for every single one. So just copy and paste and connect the wires. I hate it. It's ugly. I hate nesting like that, but it's just the way it's gotta work, or it's just the way I was able to get it to work quickly. So anyways, the true branch, what we do is we create, actually we are going to need to make a new widget. Well, we can try something new. Let's try something, and then I can make my own project better. We need to create a widget though, regardless. So create widget. And what I did was I made a widget that was just required items, but I think we should be able to actually just use recipe button. So let's try that. I'm just gonna make a comment trying this might need new widget. Alright, so we create that widget, and off of it we need to do a lot of things. We need to take the return value. No, this isn't gonna work. Or is it? Well, we could try. So let's open that recipe. So hit the little find sign and open recipe button. Oh, right, we're already in it. So we're creating itself. So create two variables. One called required item name. Oh, I'm in caps again. Required item name. It'll be an integer. Or sorry, no, it'll be a text. And another variable called RQD, required item quantity. And that'll also be a text. So we want to go off the return value and set those. So set RQD required item name. And set RQD quantity, item quantity. So we want to set those. So wire up their execution wires, and the required item name is obviously going to be the recipe name. Or sorry, no, we need to do this manually. You know what? Maybe this could be done in a for each loop. Maybe. But anyway, so the first one is metal, right? Yeah, metal. So this is where it needs to be a little bit manual. Although I suppose you could somehow take this and maybe get its name. But anyways, or what you could do is you could take the metal class, you could get display name, you could do some sort of truncation. I'm just gonna do it the way I've done it just because I know it works. So we have metal. And the quantity is going to be to text, where it's going to do a conversion all the way from metal. I believe. Yes. So, and then once we've set those two variables, then we add it to its then we add it to the scroll box. So add child, context sensitive off, panel child. The content is going to be this return value. It's a little bit ugly again. I'm not going to worry too much about it, I guess. Not a lot I can really do here. And its target is going to be our found widget crafting main again as a getter. Did we already use this? Yeah, and scroll box required items again? Yeah, because we're making required items. So yeah, just copy paste that and wire it right into add child. Alrighty, and I believe that is it. The rest is just debug strings that I created. So that is the true statement. So if metal is great, I'll just make a comment for one. If metal required in recipe is greater than 0, then create a button with its name and how much is required as a number. I don't know if that's gonna work because we have nothing that sets that. Might be able to get around, otherwise we'll just copy the stuff. You know what, this is going to turn into a rigmarole because then we're going to have to screw with get recipe names. So what we're going to do is go into your content browser and yeah, let's just make it easy. Create new widget blueprint, widget underscore required item. Open that up, delete the canvas panel. And then we want a scroll box as usual. And in there we just want text and text and text. And then select the scroll box and we want horizontal. And we want this to be a lot smaller, probably around 14. So the first one will be item name. I'm going to put a space. Or I guess that doesn't matter. We want space here and then X. And then space. And then the last one will be some number, so like 3. And we'll need to create bindings for that. So first let's go into the graph and let's create those variables again. So required item name of the type name and required item quantity of the type name. Alright, so go to the designer, we'll select the item name and bind it, create a binding. We'll call this set required or get required item name. And then we'll go back, we'll select the number and we'll bind it. And that one will be get required item quantity. And then we can go into the graph, or sorry, we're in the graph already. And so all we need to do is just return those values because we're going to set them in the other one, right? So we just need to return them. So just grab those and connect them up. Oh, am I setting those to name? Those should be text, sorry. Alright, and then item name is just the item name. Alright, perfect. And that should be all we need for that. So just compile and save. Nice easy blueprint. So back to widget recipe button. All we need to change then is we want to create widget required item, and we should be able to just delete these now. Oh yeah, they're gonna say it's in use, we'll need to redo them, but yeah, delete those variables so it doesn't get screwed up, and then just drag off the return value, set RQD, we want name, set RQD quantity, you know the drill, metal. Alright, that should be fine. So then we, on the false, we want another branch, and the false feeds into there. However, what also feeds into there is the add child because it's nested, and that's what I hate. So basically, if we have greater than 1 metal, show us how many we need, and then continue on to wood, continue on to nails, continue on to block, continue on to this, and so on and so forth. And so this needs improving, but it does work for now. So this branch, the condition is just the next one. And actually, well, and then it's the same thing. We just copy and paste that really. So, yeah, let's just copy and paste this. So again, that's the true statement. Comment it, just keep it clean. What is this? Wood. And so this one will be wood. And its quantity will be right off of wood. Alrighty, and then we create another one, so just copy that whole thing and paste. And this one is going to be nails. Nails. Its value will be nails, and it's after the add child, it goes into the branch, and after the false, it goes into the branch. This one's condition is if nails is greater than 0. And I believe that is it. If false, then it just exits the function. It's a void function. So that is that. So let's see, widget craft main graph. Widget recipe button required. Yeah, okay, so that should work. So compile, save. Okay, we got an error. Not compatible with widget button reference at create. Not compatible with widget. Well, somehow it's creating a reference, so we just need to delete that. True. Create widget. Construct a required item widget. Connect it up there, and then just put the 3 return values. Target, target. You'll see that doesn't fit. So yeah, it was those nodes there. So right into content. We'll just cheap out and quickly just make one reroute. Can fix it up later. All right, good enough. So compile, save. Whoops. I'll save whatever. Play. So we'll get some items. Bring up our crafting menu. So we have 2 boxes and a sword, and we select simple sword. It tells us that we need 2 metal and 1 wood. Cool. So that works as far as I'm aware, if that was our recipe. So that is good, good, good. So we can close required item, close recipe button, I believe, and now we should just need the crafting menu. So next up is the actual craft button. So we selected recipe. It shows us what's required. We know what we have. So we know in our minds that we can craft it. So we go to hit the craft button. So select the craft button and we do an on clicked event. So on clicked button craft. Throw it down here somewhere. And again, this gets a little kind of messy. I've made it as good as I can, but it does get a little bit messy. But anyway, we're gonna need a new variable called item count for craft, and this is going to be an integer array. And so this is just a count of how many of each item we have versus what we need, or something like that, if I remember. So the first thing we need to do is clear that. So do a getter and clear. That way we're not counting over and over again every time we hit craft. It would screw things up majorly. So this is clear count from last time around. And then after that, we need a macro. So we're going to create another macro. This one, I only turned this into a macro just because it was so nested. So I'm going to put it in caps, called how many items for comparison. And it has, I need to look at my reference here. It has an input execution. So execute to clear it. And then we need an integer for every single, well, I guess we need an execute out, so we might as well just do it then. We need an integer for every single item that can be crafted with. So again, this is not very dynamic. I'm working on a better solution. Again, if you guys have any ideas, that'd be great, but this is what I could come up with. So these are all integers, and so the first one will be, I just call it num item, and that would be 0. That would be metal. I guess, yeah, you could call it so that you don't get confused maybe. So num metal, num wood, num nails. All right, cool. So what we do in this macro is we actually call a function in it. So the function is going to be, so create a new function, and it's called get stacked item count, because I haven't found a good way to do this with the items stacked. I've only been able to do it with just the raw inventory. So it needs an input of class defined, which will be an actor class. Actor, go down to class, and so we'll call that class to find, and it needs 2 outputs. I don't know if it needs them, but I used it just because I found it easier to debug, or I found it for debugging. Has item and num item, so, or num of item. And that'll be an integer and a boolean respectively. So we can disconnect those and bring the return node way away for now. So what we want to do is do a for each loop, f-click, and the array is going to be the raw inventory. So do a getter on your first person character and get inventory array. Plug that into your for each loop. So we're doing for every single item in the inventory. For every item in the inventory, when called, because this is a function you can call, we want to take the array element and break because it's a struct, and we want to get the item class and check if it's equal. So type in the double equal sign for a comparison check, not if it's equal to, but a comparison check, and connect that up to the class defined. That way we don't need to nest as bad. We can just plug in the class. All right, and so then we need a branch B and click. That's its condition. This is the loop body. And so if true, we need a couple local variables, I believe. Yeah, we need a couple local variables. So local variables, if you're not aware, they only exist for however long the function is being used. So I'm going to do the first one as item count. It's going to be an integer non-array. And another one, I don't know if we need it, but this is the way I've done it. So has the item in inv. So do we have the item in the inventory? That'll be a boolean. So what we do is, if the classes are true, or if the classes are equal in comparison, so if the class we bring in is equal to the item class of this specific inventory item that we're going through, then we take the item count as a getter and we drag off true and we type in increment. So increment int, and the reference is item count. So basically if we find an item X, then set amount to +1. Or then plus amount increment, or the count, I guess. And there is no false. That is the entire loop body. So it just counts how many items. And so once completed, then we want to go to another branch. And this branch is if the item count, remember this is only existing while the function is existing, is greater than 0. So if it's more than 1, that's our branch. If true, then we set has item in the inventory. Whoops, not get, we set. Well, we set for both, so we'll do 2 setters. So if true, then yes, we have it in the inventory. If false, then no, we don't have metal, wood, nails, whatever in the inventory. And both of these, we'll bring the return node up, both of these go into the return node. And has item has the item in inventory, and item count is, or number of item is item count. So this will go through every single item. It'll say you have this much wood, this much metal, this much whatever. It'll actually do it for every single item, but we're only doing a few classes. So now we can go back to how many items, whatever the heck I called it, how many items for comparison. So in here, we have our input. The output's going to be way at the bottom, depending how much, depending how, what do you want to call it? Depending how many items you have for crafting. And so what we do is, on the input, we just call that function, get stacked item count. So just bring it in. And the class defined is BP metal. We need to refresh this node. Refresh nodes. We're not getting our return values. I'll compile maybe. And then go back and refresh node. Right click, refresh nodes. There we go. Now we have our return. So, yeah, that'll be it. So then we take number of item. Now metal is the first one in the list. If you remember, if we go back to, I'm keeping this video long because this stuff kind of has to make sense at once. The crafting main structure, we have the metal class first, the wood class second, the nails class third. And it works the same way. We have metal integer first, wood integer second, nails integer third. And then the items required, we have 3 elements, which will again line up that exact way. So we want to keep them lined up. So the number of items returned that we get off of the BP metal class that we're finding needs to go into the outputs number of metal. Whoops. I just created a new output. Number of metal. And then we go down and we call that function again. Well, we call it 3 times, or however many items you have. Again, I haven't found a better way for this. So if you guys have any ideas, definitely let me know. So the next one will be wood, so BP wood. And the last one will be BP nails. So number of items for wood goes down to wood, and nails goes into number of items for nails. So that's input and output. And we'll connect the output execution to the last function output there. And we can get rid of that one I accidentally created, number of item. Alrighty, so after we do that, Then we go back to the event graph. So we clear everything first, then we call that, so how many items for comparison, so we call that macro. And we need to do a comparison. So then we need another macro called can it be crafted comparison. And this one, it has an input, obviously an execution, execute, and another execution down below, then, and it works essentially, yeah, it works the same way, just in reverse. Up top here we have the item count. So integer, num wood, or num metal, sorry, keep it in order. Otherwise you'll have pain. Num wood, num nails. Alright, so in that macro, it gets a little bit hairy. So, what we do is in the input, let's drag the output out of here again. In the input, what we do first is we set that array we created, so set it. It's the very first thing we do, and we set it by dragging backwards, and we make an array, and we add a pin for each item, so 3 in this instance, and so keep it in order, metal, wood, nails. So we make that array. And you could even leave yourself a note if you wanted, but it kind of makes sense here. But you could go like 0 is metal, 1 is wood, etc. And so then after that, we need to get a getter on our first person character. We need to get crafting recipes first person. Again, get selected recipe. And do a get array, an array get for that. And then of course we split it, or break it, sorry. Don't split it, it'll make it messy. We'll expand it for now. And so what we want to do is a branch right after the setter. So we branch. And that condition is right below the break. We do a getter for the item count for craft, because we've now counted how many we have and set it into an array. We have a recipe selected, so now we have this all set in here. So we'll have numbers set in here behind the scenes in the code. And so what we need to do is we need to do a get for each one. So get 0 is for metal. Well, we need 3 of them, obviously. Get 1 would be for wood, and get 2 would be for nails. Give myself a little bit more room there, maybe, and then just wire those arrays in. And so basically, the condition, the first one, is greater than or equal to. So basically, do we have more than or just the right amount of items? Integer is greater than or equal to integer. And so the top one is the get. So we get the array. So that's our item count. So so that one has to be up top. So the amount we have is counted here. So is the amount we have greater or equal to how many we need? So metal. It has to be in that order. And so if true, then we can craft, or then we know that our metal's good. And I like to make a little debug string, but I'm going to keep it clean for now. So then we just go to the next branch. So true and false all go into there, so I'm sure there's some better way to do this. Probably a for each item count, I don't know. Anyways, and then we need to do the same thing, another condition. And this can get quite messy if you have a lot of items, but yeah, basically then it's is the count for wood greater or equal to the amount of wood that we require. And then we do another branch. True and false feed into it. And its condition is exactly the same. Is the amount we counted in our inventory greater or equal to than the amount required? Okay. And then at the bottom, we go into a last branch, and in here, true and false does feed into it one last time. This is just checking items, so check to see if the item quantity counted is greater or equal to the amount we need for each item. So its condition is going to be an AND Boolean, and we need a pin for every single item. So let's see here. Yeah, so its condition is, do we have enough metal? Great, yes, continue on. Do we have enough wood? Great, yes, continue on. Do we have enough nails? Great, yes, good, continue on. And if the recipe says 0 and our item count says 0, then it's equal to, so this still gets set to true. So that's why we use an AND Boolean. And so if it's false, we can do a print string that just says not enough items to craft, sorry. And if true, we could do another print string, can be crafted, and we go to the output, and they both return into there. So then we go back into our event graph, and then we call the comparison macro, and we just wire it up. So number of metal. So basically, how many versus count, or count versus how many, or whatever. And so basically, then what we do is then we spawn the crafted item. So we'll make another macro called spawn crafted item. Event graph. Yeah, and then we'll call that. And then we'll remove the items from the inventory, which I will get to. I might as well just power through quick, I guess. So spawn the crafted item. It needs an input execution. We'll make this video, I'm sorry that it's long, but we'll just finish it off. So execute, and it just needs an output execute. So I'm gonna copy to keep the time down from my notes. So we have our first person character, and we get crafting recipes first person, and we get selected recipes first person, and then we do a getter, and then we break that struct. And so what we want to spawn is the item class. So input goes straight into spawn actor, and the transform is right here. I just grabbed backwards and made a transform. The rotation, you can set it to whatever, but I just made it random, so we'll make rotation with random between 0 and 360. The scale set to 1. And then the location is first person character, base eye height. Same way as we dropped items is how I did this. I decided it would be easier than adding it to the inventory, which we might change later, but this will just drop the item for you to pick up, as if you were like, you could make it so it was like going on a crafting table. Maybe you could go to a crafting table and have it so it spawns on the crafting table. Anyways, so and then we also get the actor location of the first person character. So we get the base eye height and the actor location of the first person character. We add the actor location to the base eye height in the X, and then we add the controlled rotation of the first person character. Again, make sure it's the pawn variety. So that's where you're looking at, basically. Take its return value, rotate it on the X by about 150, 200, somewhere in there, and add that in. And then, yeah, that random rotation, that's basically it. Then the output goes to the output here. So that is our spawn. So we can go here, spawn item from, or spawn crafted item. And then we remove items. So we'll make another function, and this one had me for quite a while, but I finally got it down to a pretty decent way. So this is remove items from inv, a function, and we need an input, which will be item to remove integer, and class to remove, which will be an actor class, and has no output. It's a void function. So what we do is we don't do a for each loop, we do a for loop. So drag off, we do a for loop. So find for loop, not for each, just for loop. I'm just going to type for loop. So for loop, not for each. Be very careful about that. So the first index is 1, and we go item to remove and last index. So basically, that will remove the exact number of items that the recipe requires. If first index equals 0, then we remove 1 too few, 1 too little, whatever. So first index 1, last index item to remove, and then the loop body, we do a for each with break. So for each with break. For each loop with break. Alright, and on the array, so we get our first person character getter on our inventory array. And so the loop body is going to be first a branch. We take the array element and break it. And we take, again, the item class equal to, in comparison, so double equal sign. So equal class. Is the class equal to the class to remove? So, and then we can collapse that. So if the class that we find in the inventory is equal to the class we want to remove, then we're going to remove it. And we're going to do that as many times as the for loop tells it to. So we do that, and then off of the true, we do a remove index from an array, that array being the inventory, and the index being the array index. So if it's equal to the class we want to remove, then remove it. And then this feeds back into the break. So we break out, and then it goes through the for loop again. And that is it for that. So go back to the event graph. So what we do here is we do a first person character getter, and again we get crafting recipes, and then we get selected recipe. We do a getter for an array, we break it, we'll expand it, and so we'll call after we spawn the item, and you could do this the other way around, that would make more sense, just the way I set it up, so just the way it's in my head. So we remove items from inventory function right after we spawn the crafted item, and so the item to remove is, I guess that should be like quantity to remove, but metal, and class to remove is metal class, and that's why I put these in the structure. It just makes this a little bit cleaner. And so, you know, this would be metal. We can copy that 3 times. Nails and wood, and just connect the respective items. So wood class, nails class, and then just the executions. And then we could do a final debug message, print string. We'll do it in red, pink, or whatever, I guess, and we'll say widget underscore craft main crafted item and removed items from inventory. Checked to make sure, because we haven't put in the ability to refresh our inventory on a loop, so we have to manually refresh it. So let's compile that. I'm gonna save everything. Save. So let's get rid of the boxes and the swords, and let's take our items, resources. Let's take out a metal. One. Actually, I'll just copy that. So copy, paste, move it over, copy, paste, move it over, copy, paste, move it over. We'll do 8 of them. So select all those, paste, move them back, forward, back, whatever. And then nails we'll do last. So copy, paste. Eight nails, and we'll do 8 wood. Alright, so we'll save that map and we'll hit play, and let's see if everything ended up working out. So we'll pick up 8 metal, pick up 8 wood, we'll pick up 8 nails. Tiny little suckers. Alright, so we'll open up our crafting menu. So we have, we'll need to make another widget or make this one bigger so we can actually read that. But we do have 8 of each. So we take a simple sword. It requires 2 metal and 1 wood. So we should have 7 pieces of wood and 6 metal plates and 8 nails in the end. So if we hit craft, then it spawns the sword in front of us. It gives us the debug string, yes, it can be crafted. Then yes, it crafted the item, removed items from the inventory. Let's check to make sure. So we'll close out our inventory. We haven't fixed the cancel button, so we'll just open the inventory. So as you can see, it did not remove the items properly. For some reason that is toggling that too oddly, for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. think because we don't have a way to toggle that close. If we go into the first person character, just to test this. Where is open, close inventory, toggle inventory? Let's just set that to a flip-flop for now. Just so that we know we can open and close it properly. Let's just try that. Compile and save, play. So we can open our crafting menu and close it. Inventory. Alright. Pick up 3. Open up our crafting menu. Simple sword. Requires 2 and 1. So we should have 1 metal plate, 2 pieces of wood, and 3 nails. So craft and then close the crafting menu and open. We can't read that, so open our inventory and it's not removing them for some reason. So go into our craft main. So for whatever reason, it is not removing them from the inventory. Just make sure that this is set up right. Class to remove is equal to item class. That's our condition. We break the element. First index is 1. Last index for each loop with break. I am not sure why that is not removing it from the inventory. So if true, it removes the index and then it breaks. Interesting. And that is all on click the button, right? Yep. What am I missing? It spawns the item, it just doesn't remove them. So all I can think of is maybe we have the classes set wrong. It should be removing them. First person character, we can try making the inventory editable. Sometimes that plays around with things. And then let's just double check our structure for crafting. BP metal, BP wood, BP nails, yep. Let's see here. BP master crafting. Oh, I got an idea. Maybe we didn't did we put all these things together? Item ID, yeah, that's all good. And the inventory is all good. So I'm gonna have to look into that, I think. It should very well. Let's see, what are we making? A sword, right? BP sword requires 2 metal, 1 wood. It's unlocked. Interesting. Just to make sure I didn't make an error here, let's set metal class. That should be set, actually, oddly. It's a crafting recipe, okay. So let's try that one last time. 2, 1, and none, right? So it should clear out our inventory. 2 and 1. Requires 2 and 1, so craft. And there we go, it clears out our inventory. So, it was obviously something in there. What though? So I'm going to clear these out because they shouldn't need to be set. Compile, save, that is a recipe. What's its parent class is master crafting. Make sure we did compile that. Maybe I need to set it in there. Let me double check. Okay, yeah, that's the problem. I guess we don't have default values. So we need to set our default values, metal to metal, wood to wood, nails to nails. Save. Master crafting, that should set it now. Our class defaults should set it. And then the sword should get it automatically. Perfect. Alright, so now everything should work perfectly. So we'll pick up all the items quickly. And we'll bring up our crafting menu. We'll make a sword. Again, we need to make that text smaller. But anyways, so it requires 2 metal and 1 wood, and we have 8 of each, so we should have 6 metal, 7 wood, 8 nails, so craft. 6, 7, 8. Perfect. And we'll make a sword or a shield, so 2, 2, and 2. So we should have 4, 5, and 2. Yeah, so 6. So 4, 5, 6. Craft. 4, 5, 6. Pick them up. Oh, they don't have collisions. You need to have collision boxes on items for them to be pick upable. So that's why those can't be picked up. But other than that, it works perfect. So, perfect. Awesome. So that is about it for now. You see basic set of armor. Well, maybe we could craft that. Oh yes, it can. So for some reason we can craft locked recipes. Go into our widget craft main where we check that. Where did we check that? We didn't check that. Spawn crafted item, I think, is where I check it. Let me see, where do I check it? Not in there. It could be where we could put it in there, I guess. Maybe I never did check that at all. So I guess, yeah, spawn crafted item. We'll just add a branch in there. Connect the input back up. Condition is unlocked. If it is unlocked, then yes, go ahead and craft it. If not, just return. Or if not, don't do anything, because then it might remove items. Compile and save. Let's see if that fixes it. So it can be crafted, but it won't let us. So that's just our debug message. So no matter what, we're not losing items. Perfect. All right, so that is working. That is that. I'm gonna leave it there. If you guys can think of any improvements for all this nesting, definitely let me know. Otherwise, I will be doing some updates when I do come up with better versions. Otherwise, I will probably be doing some bonus episodes when I have some time, where we go ahead and improve this setup a little bit and add maybe an equip system and such that works with all this. But other than that, that is all for now. So we will see you guys in another series or in a later video. That is basically the end. So thanks for watching from the team here at Unreal Tech and division of BlenderTech.com. If you enjoyed this video and learned something, please like it and don't forget to subscribe for more videos. We're on social media on the links on your screen. If you disliked this video for some reason, please tell us why so we can continually improve based on your community input. We also take requests, so we'll see you guys next time. Remember, create your way.